Good evening. I want to welcome everyone out tonight to our meeting. Thank you for coming and having an interest in the county politics of Anson County and government functions. Tonight we're going to start with our invocation by the Reverend Joanne Bennett of Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Church.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Let us pray. Most gracious and holy God, this again we just come giving you glory, giving you honor. God, we want to thank you for our opportunity just to come together, God. Father, we ask that you be in the midst of our meeting, Father. We ask, God, that we respect each other, God, and respect ourselves. God, we give you glory and we give you honor. And we thank you for this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you, Reverend Bennett. All right. Hope everyone's had a chance to look over their agenda packets. So if so, can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Gatewood, second by Mr. Woodburn. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion passes. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. You have a paper here in front of you. Are there any, I guess first I should read the conflict statement. Let me read that first. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearances of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the board? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any undue participation in the particular matter involved.
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict with the consent agenda, so I'd like to recuse myself, please, sir.
Okay. Let it be noted that Commissioner Mims will be recused from the consent agenda. At this time, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion by Mr. Woodburn, second by Mr. Gatewood. Any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving to our appearances. First, we have Sheriff Howell, who's going to present a retirement resolution. Good evening. Good evening.
May I read this resolution?
Yes, please.
Thanks. Before we do, if you don't mind, I'd like to say that I have observed Sergeant Owens many times in the courtroom, and I've been all over this state. I've never seen a man who takes control of a courtroom and runs it properly. No one's done a better job than I've witnessed in this state, and I want to say that before we do this.
Right.
Resolution honoring Sergeant Walter Owens for retiring from law enforcement service and to declare his badge and service weapon as surplus county property. Whereas Sergeant Walter Owens began his career with the Anson County Sheriff's Office on September 10th, 2012, and was assigned as bailiff at the Anson County Courthouse. And whereas Sergeant Walter Owens' commitment and dedication to the Anson County Sheriff's Office, as well as his perseverance, service, and accomplishments in the area of law enforcement during his years of service are hereby recognized and commended. And whereas, in accordance with North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 20, Article 187.2, governing boards are authorized to honor retiring law enforcement officers by presenting the badge worn during office as well as service weapon carried during their years of service. Whereas Sergeant Walter Owens has served as a member of the Anson County Sheriff's Office, and his retirement from the Anson County Sheriff's Office on November 30, 2023 be acknowledged as the official date. And now, therefore, be it resolved that as a token of appreciation to Sergeant Walter Owens for his many years of service in law enforcement in Anson County, the Anson County Board of Commissioners hereby formally exercises the authority granted by the General Statutes of North Carolina by awarding the badge worn by Sergeant Owens in his dedicated service to the Anson County, to the citizens of Anson County. Be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Anson County hereby declares as surplus property Glock 22, serial number 473, to be presented to Sergeant Owens, adopted this the 16th day of January 2024.
Thank you, Sheriff, for the opportunity to serve under him and to serve the citizens of Anson County. And thank each and every one of the commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant Owens. All right, next under our appearances, from the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, we have a peer review presentation. Going to be given by Mr. David Baker and Mr. Neil Emery. I don't think that's Mr. Emery, but okay, if y'all could please come forward.
Ms. Hodman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate being here tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to come in front of the board. Neil is one of our outreach former county managers. He was under the weather. Okay. And could not make it tonight, so he does offer his apologies for that. I do have George Germain here from Department of Revenue. He wanted to come down and listen in and offer to drive, so I took him up on his offer. So I was fine with that. So. My name is, as you mentioned, my name is David Baker. I'm with the Association of County Commissioners. My official title is Director of Tax and Revenue Outreach. I think that's something we made up about 6 years ago when I retired from the state and came to work with Kevin and Amy at the association. So my background, just to give you a little bit of my background, I started in working in local governments and property tax area around 1985. So I've been doing property tax for almost 40 years now. So I've dated myself now, so, but that's okay. I was with the Department of Revenue as Director of the Local Government Division for 30 years, retired from there, and then been with the Association of County Commissioners for about 6 years. So one of the things the association does, one of the services we provide to the counties is to come in and take a look at tax offices at the request of the commissioners and the county managers. And Lynn contacted us, and I think he discussed with you about us putting together a team and coming in and taking a look at your tax office. Yeah. And so we did that. Can I change these up here? Right here. There, find the right remote here. Thank you.
It seems like because it says here, what time it make a motion. I got mixed up because it wasn't on this page.
No, just ask.
There we go. All right. So my job initially was just to put together a team. What you'll see here are the individuals that came down, visited with the tax office, got with Larry Newton, the county tax administrator, talked with all your employees, interviewed those, took a look at your facilities, everything. So Kurt Boone from the School of Government, Doug Huffman heads up the real property section of the Department of Revenue. Tina Stone heads up the personal property. Dan Harrell is the Union County Tax Administrator, and Brian Myers is the Catawba County Tax Administrator. So what I try to do is pull in some of these people from other organizations, as well as some actual tax administrators who are seasoned, who have been in this business for a while. So it really is a peer review. It's not just me coming in saying these are things that we see. So we came down here in October 21st, 2023. As I said, we conducted a review of the different divisions in the tax office, took a look. We issued a report November 15th of last year, and then in sharing it with Lynn and talking with him, he asked for me to come down and present it to the board. So I'm glad to be here tonight to do that. One thing I would like to say about your tax office overall, y'all have a lot of good, dedicated employees working for y'all. And we found that out talking with them, interviewing with them. they're hardworking people, and they do a good job. Larry and his staff do a good job for y'all down here. Now, with that said, our charge is, as the team, is to come in and look for places for improvement, things that they could do better, maybe even resources they may need to do their job better, and that's really what the report does. So I always tell everyone when we go over these reports, they tend to be a little on the negative side, because what we're doing, we're trying to point out places where improvement can be made. If we came in and found nothing wrong, that would be great, but that's normally not the case. Most of these I do and have been involved in for over the last 20 years probably, because I used to be the Department of Revenue coming in helping the association, and now I'm the other way around, asking for help to come in to do that. So there's always places you can improve an organization. That's what we're looking for here. So as you know, right now, Anson County operates in the tax administrator model, where you have appointed Larry as the collector and the assessor. Now, by statute, each county has to have an appointed assessor and collector. Now, in North Carolina, the trend has been over the last 20 years that most counties, and right now I think it's 80 counties, only 20 counties that have not gone to a tax administrator, which means they have two separate people in those roles. 80 of our counties now have one person holding both roles, because that's pretty much the norm. So what you're seeing here is basically what we see across the state as going on in most places. Some counties still feel like having two separate people work better, and that's fine. You know, so it's really up to the board to make that decision on how you want to operate. It's your appointments, and you can appoint the same person to both offices, and here you have done that. And that's just a slide talking about that. So overall, the team recommends that you stay with that model as long as it works for you. If y'all review it and you decide there needs to be a different model, that's your decision, and that's okay. So we're not saying one way or the other. The report, if you read through the report, it kind of tells you the pros and cons of both. And I'm just here to say either one can work. As long as everybody's working good together, I think either one's fine. Okay. A couple of things that we did find, and what I've done here in this slide here is kind of taken all the recommendations. I'm going to go through those fairly quick. And at the end, I've got like 10 of the most important recommendations I think for the board to consider first. Now, some of these recommendations are really for the staff to work on, and for Larry and his staff to do these things. So the team found that it was not a clear vision or mission statement for the office. I think that would be good for them to develop. Standard operating procedures where if, and most organizations are like this way, unfortunately, is things get done but nobody actually documents how to do them. So if you got someone who leaves all of a sudden or is out sick, there's a hole left there. So finding those and standardizing the processes would help everybody. And that also goes to succession planning and trying to make sure that you, if two people were to leave all of a sudden, now you got a giant hole in your organization. And I have found most organizations, including the one I left at DOR, needing more of this all the time. So that's just something that the team recommends and sees where there's a lack of some of that going on. Nothing major though. As far as your facility here goes, I think for the most part, it works fine. There's plenty of parking. People can get in and out of the building. You have your LPA office downstairs and your collection office downstairs. I think the report does talk a little bit about the need to maybe funnel some of that traffic a little bit differently certain times of the year, especially in January when the collections are being done, late December, or the end of a month when LPA's office, everybody's coming in to buy tags. Gets a little jumbled up there. So that's something to look at. Security cameras and alarm buzzers are installed in places. That just needs to be looked at and make sure that they're working and make sure that you have enough of them. Okay. The other thing that we really talked about in there was if I walk in the door here, I can walk straight back into your real property section back there and into your assessor's office. The public can. There's no safeguard for your employees. That probably needs to be looked at some way. And right now it's difficult here because you got the elevator. And then you got your real property and your personal property appraiser right behind that area back in there. So that's something that needs to be looked at there because unfortunately in today's environment, we all know things happen. And unfortunately, we need to kind of safeguard our employees, safeguard your assets around that. Your collection office is, locked up and kind of to itself, same thing with the LPA office. Okay. But there are times when money's being moved from your tax office to the finance officer, and that goes through those public areas as well a lot of times. So I would just take a look at some of that and see where improvements can be made there. Technology and software. I would give kudos to your staff here, because what they've had to go through over the last 18 months to 2 years, and going from the old system, you went to the BIS system, and then there was a problem with that, and they switched over to Bitech, which is a good system, and they're currently putting that in place. They got it working in the collection office, they're getting it in place in the camera office. But that's a lot to ask staff to do in a short period of time. I mean, a lot of times counties don't change their property tax software except once every 20 years, for example. And here it was done twice in about 18 months in the collection staff. So those folks really should be given a lot of credit for what they have endured and what they came through and made sure things kept working. So that's one thing, that conversion needs to be completed. Additional training for those staff, and I would talk with the software company and make sure that you're getting the training for your staff here. I think your staff indicated to us as a team that they could use more training on the software, which is not uncommon when you put in new software. So that's just areas there. And you'll see some other stuff talks about the phone system and maybe providing some headsets to your collection staff so they're not trying to talk on the phone and do things, hold the phone here and work here, where they can talk and work and handle the money and credit card and things like that. So that's just some other recommendations you'll see there. Employee training is definitely something that is lacking a little bit. There are requirements in the law for your assessor and appraisers to be certified. And the team found that that's not being done right now. There needs to be, make sure that that's being done. There's funding for that. And so that's something that you'll find in the report as well. Again, we've already talked about SOPs, developing cross-training, and again, making sure the DOR appraisal certification requirements are met. But that's in the statute. If you're appraising property in North Carolina, you have to be certified by DOR. And all the people on staff here are not. And so that needs to be addressed. And that'll just, it'll help them do their job better for one thing. But it's also a requirement by law. We took a look at your website, spent some time, working through it as if we were a citizen, that could be better. I mean, just be honest about it. The website could be better, which is not uncommon for websites. Trying to keep those things updated is always a problem. Having one website where I could go there as a citizen and I can get to the assessor and collector and GIS and it's all tied together, and I can find out how to appeal my property. Online listing would be good, something the county could look into over time. But that's an area again that could be worked on as well. Then we took a look at the real property section. So I'm going to kind of break this down to real property, personal property, and the collections, and we'll hit all those right quick. There's a real property appraiser position here that's been open for quite some time, and that's no fault of anybody other than just the environment we're in. We all know if you work in the business world, if you go to a restaurant, anywhere else you go, there's a sign always up that says hiring. I don't know where all the workers went, but they went somewhere. Okay, but the county's had problems filling that position. So that's the recommendation, is to try to fill that as soon as possible. Because lack of staff is, some of these things they're going to point out is due to not having enough of people, not actually having enough of bodies to do everything that's required by statute. And you'll see that in here. So that's one thing, is to try to fill that position. If you've got someone on staff already that's not in an appraiser position, but they know something about property tax, you might want to consider looking at one of those people. And then backfilling that position might be easier. But I know that's a problem. And there's a couple of listservs out there for property tax, and I go out there every day and look at them. And what I see every day is there's counties advertising for positions every single day. And so basically Anson County is competing with all the other 100 counties for people. And it's tough. It's a tough market right now. One of the things that's not being done that this position could help with and some of the other recommendations in a minute you will see is a compliance review program. The general statute requires that all your exemptions and PUV, present use value, exemptions should be reviewed at least 1/8 every year. Okay, currently that's not being done, and mainly because they just don't have time to get around to that. Okay, but by statute that is required to be done. So the county needs to try to create that compliance review program and then start doing that. But you're not going to be able to do that unless you add some additional staff. And we'll talk a little bit more about staffing as we get to the end of this. When the county gets ready to do that, contact me, contact the Department of Revenue, and we can help Larry and his staff do that, figure out how to do that the best way. You're not the only county that is in that position. I've talked with several counties, done 4 of these reports this year, and all 4 of them have the same problem. So it's not anything just for Anson County. Okay. As far as the reappraisal, you got one coming up in 2026. Just need to get ahead of that. Right now, the team felt like the county was a little bit behind on that, planning for it. And the Department of Revenue has a application out there that will help the county do that. So we just recommend that Larry and his staff get with the Department of Revenue and work with them on getting caught up on the planning. Decide what type of reappraisal you need. Do you need to go measure everything? Do you need just, look at everything? How's the best way to do that? And the staff at DOR can help the county do that. So that's a recommendation there. And right now the county's on an 8-year cycle, and that's fine. And I wouldn't recommend doing anything other than that right now. But at some point the county probably should look at going to a 4-year cycle, which means do a reappraisal every 4 years. Okay, and a lot of people say, well, we just don't want to do that. And I understand that. But the truth is, to be fair to all you citizens, doing it every 4 years is better. Because values go up, values go down. Parts of your counties grow, other part of the county doesn't. And if you got a part of your county that's actually booming and another side that's not, and you wait 8 years to capture that boom, then these people over here where it's not booming are paying more than their fair share. And really a reappraisal is all about equity. It's about sharing the value fairly across property types and property location. That's just something for the board to look at going forward. But right now we're focused on the 2026 reappraisal. Get plans going on that. Make sure you get it. Right now the county does not have anywhere close to the staff to do in-house reappraisal, so they're going to have to go outside. So we need to start working on that process of getting someone hired to do that reappraisal. And the folks at DOR and myself would be glad to help y'all with any of that we can. Then we took a look at your personal property side, business personal property, which is your boats, motor vehicles, all those type of things, airplanes, and then your business personal property. We recommend that the staff here get some additional training from DOR on the vehicle tax system, which is part of the tag and tax program. That's the tax side of the DMV part of it. I feel like, and the team felt like that, there's personal property in the county that's not being listed and not being listed correctly. And there needs to be an effort made to make sure that all your businesses are listed and they're all listed correctly, that all your mobile homes are getting listed, and all your boats and airplanes and all those kind of things are getting on the books. Because again, if everybody's putting their property on the books, then it spreads out the tax burden to everybody. And that's important, to all your citizens. Because you got those who are listing, and they're paying their fair share. If you got some that are not listing their property, that's a problem. And we found where, again, a lot of that's due to the lack of staff of being able to do all that. And also contract out for some outside help on that as well. And the report talks some about that. That's just another area there to make sure, first of all the property is on the books, and then you collect the taxes once it's assessed. We'll talk about the collection in just a minute. Now again, this is just some more of that there. Vitech is your new software company. I would definitely recommend contacting them, get training for your staff. I would also recommend, I can help with this, is there's other counties out there using the same software, and they can help Larry and his staff with that. I've talked with some counties that are willing to come here and help him or have his staff go there and watch them use the system so that you get the most out of the system that you can. So just, that's just where additional training needs to be done. Okay. We already talked about certifying your appraisers. getting the unlisted property on the books, and then issue those discovery notices. Now, some of the things I'm talking about here do not make people happy. Okay, if they're not listing their properties and you make them list their property, that's going to bother them. But what about the 95% that are doing it correctly? Because that's something to consider. So just keep that in mind, that when you go through these processes and you start doing some of these things, people are going to complain. That's just part of taxes. Okay, after doing this for 40 years, that's just part of the process. And as elected officials, y'all going to hear that. There's no question about that. Talk about your LPA office for Safety License Plate Agency. Anson is one of the handful of counties around the state that runs the LPA office. As far as our contact with DMV, asking them if they've got any complaints here about the office and how it's run, DMV didn't indicate they had any issues with how things were being run here. One thing the team had a little bit of concern about was these are so-called DMV employees, but they're also county employees. And I think they could be utilized a little differently and better. I mean, they could actually learn more about the vehicle tax system. And that way, if say your personal property appraiser who makes adjustments on values is out that day, and you got a person standing there wanting to pay their taxes, buy their tag, and you have to tell them, well, I can't do that because that person's out. There's no reason why these LPA agents, employees who are your employees, although they collect money for DMV and for you, can't do that. So it needs to be some cross-training there. So better utilizing those people to do both, which I think would help the whole process. And this is something we found in several other counties that run LPAs, is where it's almost like there's a wall put between the LPA and the tax office, and they don't necessarily work together. So a little team building, a little customer service training would go a long ways here, I think, to help what you've got here. And please stop me. I didn't say that, but please stop me if you've got any questions as we go, because I know I'm going pretty quick. I want to get through the report and give y'all time to move on to the other business tonight. Land record, the GIS in Anson County is a separate department. We didn't really take a look at that. We just realized that in some conversations with different employees that there seemed to be a little bit of communication issue between GIS and land records and the tax office, and so that probably just needs to be looked at and see if better communication there can work. The county could also revisit that if I find some counties where the land record GIS is in the tax office and other counties are not. GIS has grown so much over the last 20 years. There's so many other uses for GIS other than taxes. But the truth is GIS and land records started in the tax offices in North Carolina. That's where they all started. A lot of counties have moved those out. Okay, that works fine. I would just say take a look at that and make sure that it's working for you and for the citizens here in Anson County. Now this leads me to an area that is a concern for us as a team, and that's the collector's office. And it's not about the employees, because they're doing all they can with what they've got. Let me say that first. Those folks are working really hard for you. And like I said, they've gone through 2 software conversions in 18 months, which is unheard of. And to be able to collect your taxes and get that, that's great. But your collection rate here for last year basically was 95%. And this next slide here, you'll see Anson County. You'll see the average collection rate for counties your size, which is under 25,000 population, is somewhere around 97, where you're around about 95. It's about 2.5% lower than the other counties your same size. From a state average standpoint, Anson County is about over 4% lower than the average statewide. I realize smaller counties can always get to that state average at 99. Some can. It takes a lot of work. Okay? And it will take a lot of work to improve this. But if you're leaving, say, 2.5% to 4% of your revenue on the table every year, that's tough. That's money that the county could use somewhere else and spend somewhere else. Another way to look at this is basically saying, let's just say 4%. If you've got 96% of your people paying their taxes and 4% aren't, that 4% that aren't, the other ones are paying more than they should. And that's just something you need to look at. Okay? Now, I will say this again, after doing this for a long time, it'll take a while to improve this. It'll take a lot of hard work. It'll take doing some things that, again, I said a while ago, won't make some people happy if you make them pay. But a lot of my experiences has been over the years, it doesn't take a whole lot of enforcement to get the word out that the county's serious about paying your taxes. Okay, and you'll be surprised, just a little bit of that will go a long ways. The other reason to getting that collection percentage up, as you know, as a board, is you can't budget, but so much of your tax base based on what your collection was the year before. So not only are you leaving certain revenue on the table, you're also leaving part of your tax base on the table because you can't budget it all under the statute. And this is the statute here. And in the report, there's actually a link to a blog report by Chris McLaughlin at the School of Government that talks about that. And it's a good read. So it's in the report if you want to take a look at that. Just kind of explains that particular statute. Just keep in mind, it's not just about leaving the money on the table. You're also leaving part of your tax base on the table when your collection rate is low. Okay. So recommendation there is there needs to be an increase in using your collection methods, which is garnishments, wage garnishments, bank attachments, levy, debt set off, and foreclosures. Now, foreclosure is the one a lot of people want to jump out and do, but that's really should be the last one you do. Do those other ones first. Okay, this is where your staff needs additional training, and the School of Government provides a great resource for that on how to do these things. So just look at that. There's some other small adjustments, some small recommendations here, but the big thing is you have to make an effort to do enforced collections. And right now, because of your staffing size, those folks are just trying to get the money in the door that's coming in. They not really have the time to say, okay, how do we go about doing this enforced collection stuff? But we can help with that. The School of Government can help your staff with that. Lockbox may be an area the county wants to take a look at, and that's where all the checks go to, say, First Citizen Bank in Charlotte. They process it and the money goes in your bank account overnight. Your staff don't have to touch all those checks. That frees up their time to do other things. So it's just something to look at. That's something for y'all to take a look at and see if it's cost effective to do. Some counties find it is, some counties find that it's not. That's okay. But if all those checks are coming into your folks here and they have to sit there, key all those in and process all of them, that's time that could be spent doing something else. But you got to look at the cost of the lockbox. So I would just say explore that and see. The other thing here, a couple of things, is when you use credit cards and y'all do take credit card payments, it really needs to be an effort to make so that your employee is not touching the customer's credit card. And that may mean you have to put in some different type of machines up front, because the rules really should say that I don't take your card in my hand. You stick it in the thing and you do your thing, and then your payment support. That's just something to look at as well. Okay. The last bullet on this particular side talks about bankruptcy claims. That's an area that is really complicated, and your staff will need some training on that for sure. But I guarantee you there's money being left on the table because that's not being done correctly. Okay. And we can get some help. We can get your staff some help with that to make sure they're doing that correctly. When someone files bankruptcy, that basically freezes their ability to collect that tax for a period of time, but it doesn't freeze it forever, and it may not affect stuff that's already out there. So but if you don't know how to navigate that, a lot of times staff will just not do anything with it because it's a little scary, because you got judges involved and your bankruptcy court and all that. So you just need some training in that area for your staff. But we can help with that as well. This is really one of the biggest things here on this report. There was a study done by what's called the International Association of Assessing Officers. Sure. And that's a group out of Kansas. It's considered the mothership of education when it comes to assessing across the world. Okay. They did a study, and that study, along with the study that our office did, would indicate to us that in Anson County, since you got a combined office, you really need at least eight full-time employees. Okay. Probably need between 10 and 12 if you were actually going to do everything that needed to be done and we'll realize that may be hard to reach. And initially, that 8 may be hard to reach. Right now, you got 6. Now, you got one position, I think, in collection that's there, but it's not been filled yet. And I don't think we were even aware that it was there when we were down here doing the part. We'll talk about it in a minute. But those 2 studies alone tells us that you need at least 8. And we'll go through some organization charts here in just a second, kind of showing you where we think they should be, and then y'all can address that as you see fit. Okay. Now this is your current structure right here. You got a tax administrator, you got 3 people over here in the assessing's office, and 2 in the collection, and we're not counting the LPAs at all, because we don't consider those tax office employees. Although, like I said a while ago, I think they could be used a little bit better. Okay. So basically, you got 6 right now. So what the team is recommending is that you, and this is where that collection position comes into play. If it's there and it's already been allocated, it needs to be filled. Then over here on the real property side, you add one more person. So that gets you up to 8. Okay, and that's phase 1. That would be our recommendation, that the county moves to this as soon as possible. Try to get these people in place. Having that extra person in collection will allow your deputy collector to focus on enforcement, and then allow the other, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
And I think the studies, I'm sure you could verify that by filling those positions would actually increase our overall revenue, so it wouldn't be a loss to the county by hiring those extra positions. It would probably be a gain, I would think, right?
I would definitely say so, yes. The things I've pointed out, which are making sure all the properties listed, that's a gain. Okay. The compliance review will be a gain, and then of course the collection part will be a gain. I would say, based on my experience, that those gains will far outweigh what the additional costs here to the county. Definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
It's a good question, though. Now this is just phase 2. This is if the county wanted to go further, wanted to do a little bit more of your reappraisal in-house, we would actually recommend some additional folks here. This would be phase 2. The report talks about that, but it basically gets you up to 10 employees instead of 6. But right now, we're just saying just get to 8, and then get the training in place and start doing some of the things that we've talked about doing. I think you'll see your revenue go up, your collection rate will go up. But I will say the collection rate is going to be slow going. It always is. Okay. I have a former employee of mine that's in one of our counties now as tax administrator. He came in, his collection rate was about 95%. In about 2.5 years, he's been able to get it up to about 97, which is good, no doubt. But he wants to get that 99, but he knows it's going to take time. So these are my top 10 that I picked out from the report. Number 1 would be hire those additional staff. And once you have those staff, get them educated. Okay. Make sure you increase your forced collections, which means garnishing wages, attaching bank accounts, and turning more of your foreclosures over to your attorney that's doing those for you. Okay. Create that compliance review program. Make sure all your new construction is being picked up on a timely basis. Have those appraisers certified, trained and certified. Contract out for some business personal property audit work, where again that gets more property on the books. Okay. Same thing with number 8 here. Make sure that all the property is being listed, and there's ways of going. The report talks about how to do some of that for your staff. And Tina and myself are resources, Kirk Boone from the School of Government, that can help with all of that as well, and we're glad to do that. Go ahead and make sure you prepare for this next reappraisal. Okay. And then look at those physical changes to protect your assets. And the number 1 asset you have is your employees. So make sure you protect those. Those would be my top 10. There's a lot in that report. I was just trying to give you a high-level overview of it as best I could or not. But I'm available anytime for any questions. Lynn knows that, and Larry knows that. We're here to help. But like I said, let me emphasize again, you got some great people working for you. They just need all the tools, and they need to be allowed to do all their work that the statute allows them to do and requires them to do. And I think you'll see an increase in collection rate and in revenue. And I know, and a big thing there is just issue of fairness. Let's get it all in the books. Let's collect it all. and let's provide the best services to the citizens of Anderson County that the tax office can. But I'll be glad to take any questions on any of this. But like I said, I'm always available. So.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Wood.
Not a question, just a request. Are we gonna get a copy of this PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
I think it's a little easier to go through than
Yeah.
then I can take it and go back to some of this.
Yeah, and what I try to do is, like I said, pull out, the report's fairly lengthy, and there's a lot of reading there to do, and I agree with you. The PowerPoint's a little bit easier to follow, so I think Denise, you got a copy of it.
Okay,
You
all right,
should
thank you.
get that to you. So, but like I said, I'm always available to help down here any way I can. So just let me know.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Baker? Yes, sir.
I'd like to say thank you very much for a job well done, both you and your team. Very thorough. It's balanced, in my opinion, and it's very, very comprehensive. So really appreciate the work you've done in a very short period of time. Now, my estimate, just sitting here doing some calculations, is that we're leaving close to $1 million on the table if our tax collection rate was the same as our peer group. Is that...
I'm sure, I have not done those calculations, but I'm sure that's...
Larry Newton, is he here?
He's out there.
All right. Is that a fair estimate?
It really would be a little more than that, really. I mean, it's a good figure, but it's really a little more than that.
How much is it, Larry?
It's probably 20 to 30%.
All right, good. Thank you.
4% of 50 million, which is about our budget, is 2.5 million.
Yeah. It's
right?
sizable, yeah.
Okay.
It's sizable for sure, no doubt. No
But
doubt.
what about the 16 million? What are you basing that percentage of?
Well, the 16 million is just what your overall, on an annual basis, basically what y'all put out there to be collected.
Yeah.
And that just came from reports from the treasurer's office. Right. On that, yeah.
Okay, so the percentage would apply to our total budget, or the?
Well, actually, that 16.8 million I show on there would actually be more if your collection percentage was more. Yeah.
Okay.
If you increased your collection percentage, say 2%, then you could assess 2% more of your tax base, basically.
It's going to be added to the
Be added to
16.8
that
million. Yes, sir.
16,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a couple things going on here that would improve things. One, is just getting more money in the door.
Yeah.
And two is being able to actually bill more.
Bill more. Yes.
So you got two, both of those are going on when you increase that collection rate.
Yes.
Not to mention unlisted property and things that aren't being taxed at all.
Yeah.
Those will help as well. So.
It's going to be a sizable amount either way you look at it. So. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I appreciate y'all's time. Like I said, association, as you know, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. That's what they pay me for. Call me. Lynn knows how to get in touch with me, so I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baker. Obviously, we have some things we can work on within our tax department. Some of them's going to be fairly quick. Some of them's going to be time consuming. But I want to assure our citizens that we are going to work on it and make progress. One of the main things that I took away from the peer review, and I want to mention this tonight, Mr. Baker referenced it in his report, the job that our tax employees, the employees within the tax office are doing with what they have to work with. They're doing an exceptional job, and so I want to say thank you to those employees, to a job well done for what you have to work with. So on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I say thank you to those employees.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If I may, I'd like to echo that because I know they spent time with each employee. They set up a schedule so that they could do the one-on-ones, and I think they're doing a good job. But as Mr. Baker said, to go through 2 conversions for software in 18 months, that's almost insane. I'm glad that they didn't go insane in the process. But I appreciate the report, and we do know where these guys work, and they are there to help us.
And the majority of the final conversion was during the peak of tax time, so I couldn't imagine that.
It's not easy.
Okay. Mr. Forbes, I want to follow up on the sheriff's resolution. We do not need to make a motion for that resolution. Is that correct?
Yes, you do.
We do?
It would be, yes, I will vote on that.
Okay, all right. So this time we're going to back up on the retirement resolution for Sergeant Owens. Does the board entertain a motion to approve that resolution?
I'd like to make a motion to approve that resolution.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Brickens, second by Mr. Gatewood. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And then do we also, Mr. Forbes, do we need to make a motion to accept this peer review report?
If you want to accept it, yes.
Okay.
Yes, to accept it in as the peer review is, yes, you need to accept that. You need a motion for that, yes.
Okay, so at this time, do we have a motion to approve the peer review as reported?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion by Mr. Mims, second by Mr. Woodburn. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Baker and your staff. Okay, Ms. Cannon, did we have any public comments? Okay, so no public addresses to the board, no appointments. So we're going to move on to the manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item is to talk about the airport. As you know, every 5 years we're required by the Federal Aviation Administration, good old FAA, as well as NCDOT's Aviation Division, to actually do a request for qualifications to select another candidate to be our airport engineer and planning services firm for the next 5 years. And I do say 5 because it's very specific. So for a number of years, the county has used a fairly large firm, Michael Baker International, and they're very well known. They do work across the country in this manner. And what happens is we have to select one. We put a request out for qualifications. We'll say Miss Cannon and I did. And we received 3. All 3 were very good firms. But and I had a small committee, if you will, and we sat down and reviewed all 3. And what we'd like to do is recommend that the board, again, engage Michael Baker International for the next 5 years under a master contract. I don't have that master contract with you, but I wanted to get, to take this one step at a time. So if you approve that tonight, I will contact Michael Baker, and what they will do is prepare that master contract, and we'll put it on an upcoming agenda.
Okay. I just want to add that I was on the committee for this selection of this engineering services, and all 3 applicants were very qualified. All 3 were very well put together RFQs, and I do feel like the Michael Baker team was an exceptional choice, so I commend you on that selection. So at this time, do we have a motion to approve the services of Michael Baker?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion by Mr. Gatewood, or Mr. Woodburn, second by Mr. Gatewood. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item is the.
I just mixed up Dave and Michael.
Okay. All right. Same last name, different. But next is a discussion you wanted to have on the Anson County Rescue Squad. So Ms. Cannon and I invited 2 individuals to come tonight to discuss it. One is the current chief, is Anthony Ratliff. He's sitting right here on the front row, and then to his immediate left is former chief Tyler Green. So I'm not sure which one of these gentlemen wants to go first, but I'd like for you to let them give you a presentation in terms of where they are operationally and structurally.
Okay. If you will, Mr. Ratliff or Green, whichever.
Good, how are you?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I believe he's passing out now some stuff we prepared for y'all tonight. I think basically this discussion probably started from some concerns that some commissioners were having. I'm not exactly sure where to pinpoint certain concerns, so we brought several different things. If anyone wants to kind of give insight and mention what they have on their mind, and we'll see what we can discuss. And also what I'm going to pass out to y'all is the financial statements for 2023 My goal was to get y'all a profit and loss statement, but obviously we're not too far into 2024 yet. We didn't have the profit and loss ready for 2023, so you're actually going to get hard physical copies of our financial statements from January through December. Okay, we did 2022. And also, I'm going to hand to Ms. Cannon. This is the profit and loss statement from 2022, just for comparative reasons. Okay, so the first thing that we passed out to y'all is just a general report, general overview of how does the rescue squad help the community, help the county. I believe over the years as I was chief and now Anthony was chief, I realized maybe there was some things we were not all certainly clear on. There were some issues where I think I had a commissioner one time, he thought they were the same thing bundled together. So I kind of just made a general overview of what we do for the county. Obviously, we operate under a contract with you guys to have a paid 911 ambulance staff 24/7, running a third of calls for the county. That is primarily what I believe you guys benefit from us most. We also have a volunteer side aspect of it all that we could get into, but I believe that ends up being you guys' main concern on most fronts. So what I did was I actually went back and ran the call counts last year for 2023 for the rescue squad. For 2023, we ran about 2,210 calls. And the county EMS ran 3,435 calls. So combine that together, and that'd be a total of approximately 5,645 calls for the county EMS ran in a year combined. You guys were giving us $64,000 last year in the budget. What that averaged out to was about $28.95 you guys spent on us every time we ran a call. Just for a comparative reason, just to show you the benefit that we provide to the county EMS budget was allocated for $2.8 million, $2,894,129. So cost per call every time EMS ran out was $842.54. So that's where our benefit really comes in, is that we're able to kind of alleviate tax dollars, if you will, by being able to run calls for a lesser amount and being able to handle on the private end of things. Also talking about coverage during workforce issues, staffing for paramedics and EMTs are hard to come by. It's gotten harder as the years have gone on. I've got a study posted up for y'all. In 2023, this was a study from the National Association of EMTs. They reported 2/3 of EMS agencies had a decrease in applications. Over 27% of agencies reported a decline in applications over more than 25%. Also, turnover's high. Getting people to stay in the door is high. We also have issues with pay. Anson County has always had a pay issue. We've had to compete with other bigger counties and pay more. We're still battling that. So we're supposed to operate 24/7 per the contract and do a third of the calls per year. Like I said, we're all prone to human error. Some things are hard to come by. I had a conversation with the county manager about this. People get sick. People have babies. I know we had, three pregnant crew members? Yeah, we had 3 pregnant crew members all at once last year that we had to work through that. 2 of them are actually still out of work at this time. But through the year of 2023, I was able to finish that up. We were only able to not staff that unit for a total of 12 shifts. I believe Christmas Day we weren't able to staff for day or night, which how we staff is we're able to staff by part-time employment. We're not able to actually afford full-time employment. That would go into a whole another cost. So 12 days off of last year we were not able to staff, 12 working shifts. And another benefit to that is, just as we have a staffing problem, I'm sure county EMS feels that issue too, and we're able to work together and to make sure that one is picking up where the other one is lacking. but like I said, I could ramble on all day, but if you guys have any questions, anything specific you're interested in knowing, please let me know.
Could you tell us the definition of a call?
The definition of a call that I did for purposes of this report could include 911 calls to homes. It could include hospital transports, any other kind of convalescent transport from maybe hospital back to a nursing home or hospital to hospice, rec calls, and fire standbys and things like that would be in that mix as well.
If you're called out and soon after the call is made, you find out that someone else had already responded, does that still count as a call if you don't go all the way to the scene?
There are a few situations where that would probably happen, but at times, yes, that would count as a call in your call volume. At least for the purposes of this report. I'm not saying that we can't run a completely different report and get different numbers, but for purposes of this, that does happen very few. But I mean, that would be calculated in this report as well.
Okay, and I'm not challenging your definition. I just was trying to learn what it was.
Yeah, and a lot of this I'm going to say is just approximations. They're very within the margin of error. They're very slim, but they'll be able to kind of get this together on a more of a last-minute basis. This is all going to be approximations. To give you a definitive answer, I mean, I would need to comb through things for months at a time before I would be comfortable telling you it's 100% the right numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the main concern, well, there's two of them. One, from our side on this table, we're looking to make sure that we're spending, that we're utilizing the dollars that we're given for emergency services to the best of the ability for the citizens of this county. So we want to look at all the numbers that we're supplying, just like you've given us here, what we're supplying to Answer and Rescue, what we're supplying to EMS, and are we utilizing that for the best service to provide it to the citizens. The second main concern is the coverage of the trucks. So I see here that you got in your report that there was only 12 working shifts in the year 2023 that you were unable to cover. So we have documentation that in the month of December, there were 12 different times that there was a truck offline with rescue. And I don't know if that's full shift, if that's part shift, but I can agree with you, I'm in the emergency services as well, that there's no set time that emergency is going to happen. So we've got to do whatever we can to make sure we've got an emergency truck available at all times, whether, that whole shift. And so I think that was a concern. That's why it got brought to the commissioners, is that we weren't fulfilling the duties of having a truck 24/7. And I know things happen. I'm in emergency service. I know. But that was the big concern, was making sure we have coverage all the time when when we need it. I don't know if any other commissioners have any comments, concerns.
Well, I mean, I understand the same thing, and I understand what they're saying, but it's days that we don't have anybody with a QRV in Morgan because they're short-staffed. I think everybody's short-staffed, and I think it just needs to be time for them to get into place to where everybody, whether it's the county or it's the Answer and Rescue, to come and play, to get to raise their rates up and hire more people to come in to answer calls. I think it's a disservice to both, but they're not the only ones. We're a disservice too.
That's right. So,
if I may speak
yes,
on that, one of the big issues, I'll be honest, the rescue squad has had over the past couple of years is the county did raise their pay pretty substantially for their paramedics and EMTs, and we have just not been able to compete with that. We do have some very dedicated workers that will come work for $3 or $4 less an hour than they would stand to make, working elsewhere, but we have had that struggle. Obviously, funding is still extremely tight. You guys have all got copies of those financial statements. Look through them. I mean, money stays tight. It's check to check. Like I said, the county allotment that we get, the minute we get it, it's spent probably in a few days on bills. It's a catch-up game. Like I said, we're still keeping costs very low for the county as far as what we're able to provide for the county at such low cost. But at the same time, we're still balancing a kind of a circus act of trying to keep costs low, but at the same time trying to retain some good employees. I've seen a lot of good employees, and that goes back to county EMS and the rescue squad. I've seen a lot of good employees leave over the years for issue of pay.
Yes, sir. And that doesn't just affect our emergency services. That's across the board in employment.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
May I say
Yes, sir.
excuse me. Another issue we have is a lot of people work for EMS, also work for Answer and Rescue. And a call may last 2-3 hours, depending on where the destination is. A lot of us have to get off early in the mornings so that we can get to our EMS shift the next day. So we do our best to get that time covered by the next incoming shift, but sometimes that's not possible either. So a lot of times, the 12 times in December you're speaking of, it'll be partial shifts, maybe 2 or 3 hours, to prevent being late and getting to our next employment. That does put a little burden on EMS. They have crews that get off at 8 o'clock, and we've got to be there by 8. So if that's, we try to give them as much heads up as possible, so that they can arrange to cover that, whether it be the supervisor or another crew coming in early. That's a pretty good problem.
Yes, sir.
And another thing is, we've had some hardships. We do our best to staff it, but if we don't have the equipment, which our equipment is getting older, there's a lot of times we only have one unit. It seems like when we take one out of service and put it in the shop, time we get it back, the other one has to go. It's time for replacement, and you can see we don't have the funds for that. It's going to be a hardship in the future. But, we're doing our best. We're struggling. We're doing what we can to keep everything covered and keep everything rolling as much as possible. And we appreciate your support in the past.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate your support and the work that you do. 24/7, responding to every third call throughout the year. That's a tough call, especially when you're dealing with limited resources. And we're dealing with limited resources, and as an EMS as well. We're a small county. Our population has declined significantly over the last 10 years. And a question that continues to resonate in my mind is, would there be any advantages to combining the efforts of Anson EMS and the Anson Rescue Squad?
The answer to that's above my head. I don't see how that could happen. I don't know how that would transition into being, but it's a very possibility.
I do believe, just me personally, I think that would be a much larger discussion. It would take a lot of thought before you could give a definitive answer. That's a very delicate topic, to be quite honest with you. It's extremely delicate. And, you know, it's not just the people ahead that it's delicate towards. It's delicate to the people working on the ambulances. It's delicate to the people that are, you know, on our payroll. So I believe, you know, that would be a much larger discussion before I think I would be ready to consider that. You know.
And I realize it's a very delicate subject. In fact, 15, 20 years ago, I raised this subject as the county manager, and I was tarred and feathered as a result of it. I was too abrasive and too abrupt, but it's been 20 years, and I think it's time for us to at least reconsider it, to see if there would be some advantages to joining forces, combining our resources, and moving forward as one. That's all I'll say about it.
Mr. Gatewood, to that point, I will advise the board that several months back we discussed setting up a EMS advisory committee to look into that option. As these two gentlemen know, and our emergency services, several other players within the emergency services of the county know, we've assembled that committee, and we are going to start meeting to discuss a possible merger. Whether that happens or not, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure we're providing the best service to the citizens of the county, no matter who that service comes from. And also I want to reiterate that we appreciate the services that Rescue is providing, and we want to try to expand that service all that we can. And so by setting up that committee, that's what our intentions are.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's something probably would be a real long-range plan. 'Cause, you know, something like this is it's just something you can't say we're gonna do it in 6 months or a year, even 2 years as far as that's concerned. It could take a considerable amount of time, but it's gonna have to be a lot of discussion to kind of, gradually get everybody on as close to the same page as you possibly can.
Yes, sir. I would agree. So, go ahead.
Excuse me, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work you've been doing as well. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all for all that you've done for us. We surely needed it and we've appreciated it.
Yes, sir. Any other discussions on rescue?
May I say something else?
Yes, sir, please.
In the past, there's been a couple of grave mistakes probably made. One of them is that the rescue squad was non-profit. It's a standalone rescue. It's not associated with a fire department directly. However, it's classified as fire. Our mistake, I'll take my blame there. When we lost that 501, we were ignorant of the fact of how to maintain it. We've lost opportunities on some grants and trusts and the support from the public. Another mistake is that when the tax referendum was presented to the county for the fire departments, rescue was left out. If we had received that money, we would be like the fire departments, which I'm proud of. Most all of them have rebuilt or remodeled. They have up-to-date equipment. They have plenty of supplies. I'm proud of them. I wish rescue could be the same, but we just don't have the funds. I appreciate all the support we've received.
So I would ask, is your 501c3 status current now, or?
It is not. I am pursuing a lawyer in Charlotte to help me reestablish that if possible.
And I would suggest that economic development is another is a board that I'm on, and they've gone through a similar, I guess, complication, and they found an attorney that had done an excellent job very quickly. So maybe if it okay with the chairman, we could get you maybe that contact, or with the manager, that information that there's someone that specializes in that. That after a long struggle with EDC to get it back, they went with this new attorney, and just like that. So.
Yeah, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'm sorry, accounting. Yeah. I'm in accounting, not attorney.
In the past, we've actually been working on this nonprofit status since 2019 was when we started back working on it. Yes. We have not found a person that is yet to be equipped with the knowledge to finish this thing out for us. We've done everything we're supposed to do on our end, but we've had trouble getting somebody qualified enough to get that turned in and back active.
It's difficult, but I can approach Brooke at the AEDC about who they use. She should know. And then also, the chairman and I think we have a meeting coming up in early February, like the 6th or the 8th. And with some representatives from the Golden Leaf Foundation, and apparently they're creating a new initiative, and they have, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars. They do grants all the time, and some of it's done for Commissioner Mims knows the Feed My Lambs. They got a $25,000 grant. I know that doesn't replace one of your trucks. That's going to take hundreds of thousands. But they do things like that, so we could check with them if you'll help me remember when we meet with those folks coming up in early February to see if a rescue squad vehicle would be eligible for funding. And if so, I think it would be 100%, not 90-10 or 80-20.
That would be great. We're also pursuing any grants that we can find. We've been searching. I've only found one that I was familiar with already, but if anybody has any more resources that we can tap into, I'd be glad to have that information and pursue it for you.
I was going to also make you aware that I just spoke with Mr. Sossman tonight. I'm assuming you are aware that from the state you did receive $50,000 coming from the state out of the fiscal budget they just passed. So that is coming. He's supposed to find out tomorrow when we should expect that. But rescue was included on that round of funding.
Yes, Mr. Chairman asked me to contact the state OMB office down in Raleigh, and so I'll be making that call in the morning to see what has to happen to turn that $50,000 loose for you, as well as for all our other volunteer units in the county.
Yeah, I think 8 fire stations and rescue squads. We got 9 total.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they tell you it's a grant, and I guess it is, or an allotment of some type, but they just don't send you the check. You have to go at jump through certain hoops, and we're doing that now with $11 million or so for water and sewer projects. And we thought that after they adopted the state budget that they'd put the check in the mail or make a direct deposit. Nah, got to go through a lot of hoops, but we'll get there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank y'all. Thank you very much.
Okay, just a couple more, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Employees of the quarter, we have 4. Ann Sturgill from Water Distribution, Lori Ross from the Health Department, Destiny Mabry from EMS, and last but not least, he's still here, Larry Newton from the tax office. And then after that, I've got a longer list of folks, and I can tell you how many years of service if you want me to do that, or I can just give you their list of names because I've got about not quite 20. Been a lot of retirees during 2023.
I think we should recognize the years of service, Mr. Sossman.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to give you that option. We have Robin Bowers, DSS, 28 years of service. Beth Rogers, DSS, 14 years of service. That's a lot of institutional knowledge. Travis Bostic, Water Department, 9 years of service. Joe West, Health Department, 4 years of service. Emily Williams, DSS, 10 years of service. Monica Williams, tax office, 12 years of service. Richard Flowers, Sheriff's Office, 16 years of service. Mary Kendall, DSS, 31 years of service. On this list, she's taking the cake. Timmy Watkins, Sheriff's Office, years of service, 22. Ricky Little, 23 years of service, Sheriff's Office. We start adding up these numbers, and you get to 100 and 200 and 300 quickly. Danny Starnes, Axe, 12 years of service. Joe Dean, Wastewater Treatment Plant, 12 years of service. Walter Owens from the Sheriff's Office, 11 years of service. James Tucker from Axe, 7 years of service. Larry Cole, Sr., Wastewater Treatment Plant, 25 years of service. And last but not least, Shirley Tillman, Axe, 28 years of service. So you can see a lot of folks that had a lot of institutional knowledge that's worked. And unfortunately, as you heard David Baker say, and he retired from DOR, Department of Revenue, and now he works for NCACC, North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. Every county, I had a former employee of mine who just retired as a city manager a few years ago, went to work for an engineering company because he didn't want to stay home. And he said, the pool for certain positions for the county and cities around the state, and obviously there's 100 counties in North Carolina, so we're competing with that shallow pool of talent. And with those 100, plus some of it is crosses over between counties and cities, and there's 500 plus cities and towns in the state. So there's not enough guys that's got this gray hair like I do that keep doing this.
Why are you looking at me?
You just happen to be the closest.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
yes,
I attended 2 retirement receptions last week, one for Ross Huntley from DSS. She's been a social worker for 26 years, I believe, Ms. Jackson. And also Ms. Rita Short, Elderly Services. She's retiring with 22 years of service. Both outstanding employees for Anson County government, have served us well, and the citizens of Anson County extremely well, behind the scenes for the most part.
Yes. It will be hard to replace that many years of knowledge, that is for sure. So, that, Mr. Sossman. Okay. We'll move on to the chairman's report. I just have 2 quick items I want to recognize. I want to commend Ms. Richardson and the Martin Luther King Committee on the event that they hosted yesterday at Lockhart Taylor. It was great to see many of my fellow Ansonians come together to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's my hope that we can always promote equality in all that we do, no matter what we're doing. And then I also want to bring your attention to another event that's coming up in Anson County, and that is the Anson County's Partnership for Children's Barn Blast. This is a fun evening that Caroline and her staff put together each year to help fund their mission to expand the literacy of Anson County children. This event will be held on Friday, January 26th at 6 p.m. at the Lockhart Taylor Center. Please visit the Partnership for Children's website to purchase tickets to this great event. If you can attend, please consider donating to this great cause. Investing in our children is a gift that we'll reap the benefits for decades to come. And so I think it's very important that we invest in our children. And that's all I have for the chairman's report. Any other, so we'll move to commissioner concerns, comments?
Go ahead.
I know it's getting somewhat repetitious, but I'd like to know an update on the audit.
We had an audit team of, I believe it was 4 individuals Thursday, and came in and spent the entire day getting additional information from our finance department, and we provided that to them. As I've stated in the past, their initial blast of questions, data they wanted to cover 160 some different issues, and this was additional stuff that they wanted. And so I think they've got everything now. They're saying their goal is, of course I've told you previously that their goal was to finish up everything by December. They didn't. So hopefully now I've told them that my board's demanding of me and our finance director that we finish up and get that report by sometime in February.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woodward?
Just 2 things. That's along the same lines. The audit, I guess, another repetitious question, the bank reconciliation, because that goes hand in hand with the audit. So how are we doing there?
We are slow. We have, no, I should say slowly. We have just about caught up with the bank reconciliations, and of course those are things that you have to have in order for the auditors to be able to perform their duties. And they had gotten behind, but we're playing catch up there. I did find out from someone today that there are some counties, and I don't understand why, and maybe some cities, I should say, that are 3 to 5 years behind on their audits. We're just 2 down now, 22 and then 23 that we just finished. So I'm hoping that by next fall we can be caught up and be back in the good graces of the local government commission.
All right. And the only other thing I'll mention is I will not be able to attend our February meeting. I will be at the UNC School of Government that week.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like an update on how we're progressing with hiring a veteran services officer.
Okay, please.
I love these tough questions. And I get a heads up every once in a while. I won't say every time, but we interviewed last Friday 4 of what we consider the top 12 candidates that had put their names in the hat to be the Veteran Services Officer for Anson County. And I'm hoping that either the first or the second meeting in February that we'll be able to bring that one. I had a committee, and we liked all of them. I think all of them were well qualified, some a little more qualified than others. Some of them had retired with 20 years plus service either in the United States Army or else the U.S. Marine Corps. Hey. And so, hoorah, right?
Hoorah.
And so, and we had some males and some female. And so we had a mixed bag. I was glad that we had 4 that I think either one of the 4 that we interviewed would do us a good job.
Yeah. Thank you for that update.
Yes, sir.
Any other concerns? All right. Well, hearing none, I think we have a closed session to consult with our attorney. So at this time, do I entertain a motion to enter closed session?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Mims, second by Ms. Little Reed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to exit out of closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, we have a second. Motion by Mr. Woodburn, second by Ms. Little Reed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. No actions to be taken coming out of closed session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Gatewood, second by Ms. Will Reed. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.